Hey there, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive. It brings together strategy, some hard statistics, and, well, just the sheer brilliance of elite athletes. We're zeroing in on a specific WNBA matchup, the Minnesota Lynx squaring off against the Los Angeles Sparks. That's happening Thursday, July 10th. Our mission today is kind of to pull back the curtain on how analysts actually break these games down. What factors truly hold weight and what insights you can glean from all the numbers.
Yeah, and it's a really captivating area because it illustrates how all these diverse pieces of information, everything from, team records, head-to-head history, right down to individual player stats, and crucially, injury reports, how they all converge. They paint a remarkably comprehensive picture. So we'll be focusing on a detailed preview of this Western Conference clash. We're drawing from expert analysis to understand the core predictions and even a specific player performance insight that's quite interesting.
Okay, so let's set the stage then. This Western Conference showdown, we're talking Minnesota Lynx taking on the Los Angeles Sparks. The game is scheduled for Thursday, July 10th. Tip-off is 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's happening right there at the Crypto.com arena. If you're looking to catch the action, you can find it on WNBA League Pass.
Right, and when you look at their current standing, you immediately see a pretty clear difference. The Minnesota Lynx, they're coming in hot with a stellar 17-3 record, whereas the Los Angeles Sparks are sitting at 6-13. And what's important to note right off the bat, just for context, is that this is actually their fourth meeting already in the 2025 season.
Wow. Okay, that record disparity is significant. 17-3 versus 6-13. So given this is their fourth meeting, how have these two teams actually fared against each other so far? Has Minnesota's dominance held up in those head-to-head matchups?
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here are those previous outcomes. Minnesota's been, completely dominant. They hold a perfect 3-0 record against the Sparks this season. Los Angeles lost at home by 14 points back in May. Then they suffered even bigger losses, 23 and 16-point losses when they played up in Minnesota. So this really sets the stage for the dynamic in this game, especially when you consider the Sparks' glaring struggle at home. They currently hold a pretty dismal 1-7 record at Crypto.com arena in 2025. It's a tough environment for them right now.
Right, 1-7 at home. That's rough. Now, the Lynx, they're coming into this game on a quick turnaround. They played and lost to the Phoenix Mercury just on Wednesday. For a lot of teams, that quick bounce-back game, especially on the road, could be a real challenge. But what's interesting about the Lynx is they seem to have this strong tendency to bounce back really well from losses. They've shown that resilience all season, haven't they? It's almost like a loss just fuels their next performance.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it raises an absolutely critical question when we're breaking down a matchup like this. Player availability. Injuries are always key. So, for the Lynx, Carly Samuelson is listed as out. Okay. But for the Sparks, the absence of Cameron Brink, that's truly monumental as she continues her ACL recovery. The significance of Brink being out just cannot be overstated, especially when you consider LA already has one of the worst defenses in the WNBA. Statistically, now they're facing the Lynx, who boast the number one offense in the entire league. And they're doing it without a key defensive anchor. It's a huge factor. Huge.
Okay, so the stage is really set now. We've got a dominant Lynx team, a struggling Sparks team, especially at home, a lopsided head-to-head history this season, and a critical injury really impacting the home team's defense against the league's best offense. It kind of begs the question, how did the odds makers even quantify this? It seems pretty lopsided on paper. Let's look at the actual numbers behind the predictions. These are coming to us from DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay, first up, the spread. The Lynx are favored at -7. Both sides are at -110 odds. So for those maybe less familiar, the spread means the Lynx are predicted to win by more than 7 points. If they win by exactly 7, it's what they call a push, and your bet is returned. Okay, next, the money line. Here, the Lynx are at -278, and the Sparks are the underdog at +225. This is just a straightforward bet on who wins the game outright. Doesn't matter by how much. That -278 line means you'd have to bet 278 lines just to win $100 on the Lynx. Shows they're heavily favored. While a +225 on the Sparks means a $100 bet wins you $225 if they manage to pull off the upset. And finally, the total points for the game. It's set at 163.5. Both the over and the under are at national 110 odds. So this is a bet on the combined score of both teams. Are they going to score more or less than 163.5 points together?
Right. And in practical terms for you listening, these numbers clearly show the Lynx are heavily favored, even on the road. And like you said, despite being on the second night of a back-to-back, it really underscores the perceived gap between these two teams, especially given everything we've just discussed, the records, the history, and that really significant injury situation for LA.
So here's where it gets really interesting as we drill down into the why. The main prediction we're seeing from analysts is Lynx -7. So what's the detailed reasoning behind such a confident pick, especially with the Lynx coming off that loss and on a back-to-back? Are there, any counter arguments that maybe make the Sparks +7 look tempting?
That's a great question, and it really speaks to the layers of analysis, right? It's not just one thing. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the confidence in that Lynx -7 pick, it really boils down to several converging analytical points. And these seem to far outweigh that fatigue factor, at least in the eyes of the analysts. First, you just can't ignore the Lynx's impressive 17-3 record. It speaks volumes about their consistency. And like you mentioned, their proven ability to bounce back hard from losses. That's a statistical trend analysts really rely on. They just seem to reset and perform. Now, contrast that with the Sparks. Their overall record, 6-13. And that particularly poor home record, just 1-7. Then, if we look at their performance against the spread, or ATS, this tells us how often they cover the predicted margin, win or lose. The Sparks are 7-11 line ATS, meaning they've covered less than half the time. Not great for bettors. The Lynx, on the other hand, are better. They're 11-9 ATS, more reliable against the spread. But maybe the most compelling factor here are the overall team ratings. These really show the disparity. The Lynx rank number 1, not just in offense.
Number 1 in the WNBA in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. And just to quickly explain net rating, it's basically how many points a team scores per 100 possessions minus how many they give up per 100. It's like the gold standard for overall team efficiency. In stark contrast, the Sparks are way down the list. They rank 8th in offense, 11th in defense, and 11th in net rating. And look, let's not forget those previous games this season we talked about, those dominant wins by Minnesota over LA, margins of 14, 23, and 16 points. When you put all that together, yeah, it paints a pretty clear picture supporting that Lynx -7 pick.
It really does. That breakdown makes the Lynx -7 prediction seem very robust, very well-reasoned based on the data. Okay, now let's shift our analytical lens a bit. Let's go from the broader team dynamics and zoom right in. How do these same principles apply to, say, individual player performance? Because we've got a fascinating player prop bet that stands out for Kelsey Plum of the Lynx. And it really showcases how individual tendencies, even if efficiency fluctuates a bit, can be leveraged in these predictions. The specific bet we're looking at is Kelsey Plum, OVR 1.5, made 3-pointers. The odds are Ananic 180.
Exactly, and this is a great example of digging deeper. When we break down this specific player prop, here's the key insight. Okay, so Plum's season 3-point percentage is 33.6%, which, might seem, okay, not elite, maybe modest for a shooter like her, but the absolutely crucial factor here is her sheer volume of attempts. Volume. She's averaging a high 7.3 3-point attempts per game, and she makes about 2.4 of those on average. What's more, she's been remarkably consistent at hitting this mark. She's made at least 2 3-pointers in 12 of her 18 games this season. That's 2/3 of her games. And specifically relevant to this matchup against the Sparks, remember those previous games? She knocked down 3 3-pointers in 2 of those previous games against Minnesota. So the intriguing observation here, and what makes this potentially a smart bet for you to consider, is that this line of 1.5, it might actually be an overcorrection by the odds makers. Maybe they're reacting too much to some recent efficiency struggles she might have had. But even if she's not hitting at her absolute peak percentage-wise, the sheer number of shots she takes, combined with her history against this specific team, it makes hitting just 2 threes seem like a very strong possibility. It's just a good reminder, really, to look beyond just the efficiency numbers sometimes. Consider the player's role, their volume, how they fit into the team system.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Volume shooter, history against the team. Even if the percentage isn't stellar right now, the opportunity should be there. So, okay, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? This deep dive, it isn't just about predicting a single game's outcome, is it? It's more about understanding the many, many layers analysis that go into sports predictions. From historical performance and team strengths, down to those crucial injury impacts and individual player tendencies. Every single piece of data tells a part of the story. It lets you see the why behind the numbers.
Exactly. And it really highlights that even in a matchup that might seem straightforward on the surface, like this one, with the big record difference, there's always a nuanced why that makes the difference in the analysis. It hopefully encourages you to think critically about how all these different factors combine. How a team's inherent resilience, like the Lynx, becomes a statistical strength you can almost count on. Or how a single player's consistent volume, like Plum's shooting, can be more impactful for a specific bet than their fluctuating percentage. Perhaps the real takeaway here is seeing how quickly a team's fortunes can shift based on just one key absence, like Cameron Brinks for the Sparks. Or, on the betting side, how a line can sometimes miss the forest for the trees when it comes to a player like Kelsey Plum and her shooting volume.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. So here's something for you to maybe ponder as you follow the WNBA season. How often do the team narratives, the stories we hear, align perfectly with the cold, hard stats? And maybe more interestingly, when do those surprising facts or those subtle analytical insights like the plum prop bet truly throw a wrench in what seems like a straightforward prediction? It's kind of a fun puzzle to try and solve as you watch the games unfold.